eager and excited teaching of his first followers, that kingdom had been established, though not in the way anyone had imagined before. At the heart of that new way was a new sense of time itself. The Jewish people, unlike most other ancient cultures, thought of time as a line. It had a beginning, creation, an end, when God would put the whole world right, and a middle, the confused and dangerous period they themselves were living in. But now, principally because of Jesus' resurrection, his followers came to believe that the end had already arrived, while the middle was still going on. Time itself got muddled up, or, as they came to see it, time itself was redeemed, given back to us in a new mode. The prayer had been answered, in advance of the final putting right of all things. God's new world had indeed begun on earth as in heaven. Jesus' bodily resurrection from the dead was an event that so comprehensively shattered the normal patterns of this world that it launched nothing short of new creation. The first Easter, then, was par excellence the event of God's kingdom coming on earth as it is in heaven. As we pray every day for God's kingdom to come, we are praying that we will be shaped more and more by that Easter reality, rather than by the prevailing and sometimes persuasive realities that the present world tries to offer us. So how does this work? When you get off the plane in a new time zone, you adjust your watch to the right time in the new location. One of the most striking things Jesus' first followers did was to adjust their watches to this belief that God's ultimate future had arrived in the present. They didn't, of course, have literal watches, but they measured time as we still do in 7-day weeks, and they made a radical change in how they marked those weeks. For the Jewish people, the Sabbath at the end of the week functions as a forward signpost to God's ultimate new world. The early Christians, however, changed that, and if you know anything about traditional societies, you will see what a dramatic thing this was to do. They met for worship on the first day of every week, and they did so because they believed that with Jesus' resurrection, God's new world had already begun. They were living in a new time zone, with new possibilities, challenges, encouragements, and obligations. They had to adjust their sense of time itself. Within 2 or 3 generations, this sense of living in a new time zone developed its own new styles of annual celebration. An annual cycle focused on Jesus' death, and particularly his resurrection, became a way of telling the all-important story of those events, not just in words, but in acted-out drama. The whole point was, and is, that these events are not simply things to think about, though of course they are that as well. They form a story within which we are called to live, a play in which we discover ourselves already on stage, trying to learn our lines even as the drama unfolds. The putting right of all creation has begun. Jesus' people, themselves having been put right, are to live as signposts to God's final new creation. Thus, to celebrate Easter itself, and to highlight it in the way we organize the whole year, weaving it into our collective consciousness, is to plant the truth of the gospel deeply into our imaginations and assumptions. The world, of course, will shriek that this is all fantasy. Horrors and disasters fill our newspapers and television screens. Murder, disease, violence, and oppression continue as before. But the early Christians show us the way. They knew, better than most of us, that idolatry and injustice are still powerful. But they celebrated the new day, the new time, the new Easter reality, the new Easter and Pentecost reality. And despite the chorus of skepticism, the world really has changed. It is still changing. God's kingdom is coming on earth as in heaven, in the ways Jesus said it would, through the pure in heart, the meek, the mourners, the people hungry for justice.